23rd is International Widows' Day. At the day, it aims to draw attention to the voices and experiences of widows, galvanize the unique support that they need. This year's celebration, the International Women's Society of Nigeria has reiterated its commitment to supporting women in the country. The group said this at the presentation of cash gifts and other empowerment items to more than 200 widows in Lagos.
Every 23rd of June is a day set aside by the United Nations to talk about issues that affect widows, drawing attention to their concerns and to seek better ways to address them. It's Widows' Day, and the International Women's Society, IWS, a group known for the advancement of women of all races, has called widows from different parts of the state to a feast in celebration of the day. Adibanke Adiola is a chairperson for Widows Trust Fund. She shared a story of the challenges widows go through.
It's a day that we've planned to make them feel happy, to make them feel loved, to make them feel accepted. We have gathered today to acknowledge their resilience, their strength, and to say that we love them and we care for them.
Beyond the feast, the women were also empowered with cash gifts to support their businesses. More than 200 widows were given items such as grinding machines, sewing machines, freezers and other items to make them self-reliant.
There was a particular widow that I interviewed. She has 7 children, and she lost her husband about over 10 years ago. And when she related her story, I was moved to tears because no member of her husband's family has helped or done anything to relieve her, and she's had to deal with 7 children. We had to take her aside, to speak to her specially, and we plan to take care of her health, because if she's not in good health, she won't be able to make use of the empowerment tool that we plan to give her.
This is one of our social development interventions. What we've done is made a donation of 10 million naira, which is going to be disbursed as micro grants to some of the beneficiaries here who were trained. Some of them require things like charcoal, grinding machine, maybe a generator. So this money is meant to support them to start up and build their businesses.
The group wants more action to be taken beyond just paying lip service to issues that affect widows. Abimbola Agbebi, TVC News, Lagos.
We have Director Ajoke Aishatu Foundation for Luke Adamoku. She joins us on the news to help us understand the importance of the International Widows' Day. It's good to have you join us on the news at this time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy International Widows' Day.
Well, happy International Widows' Day. Well, for the first time, the United Nations recognized International Widows' Day in 2011. I was going to ask, of course, they did this so we can have that powerful reminder of the challenges widows go through every day. I want to ask, how well have we fared as a country as to how we treat widows?
Well, thank you for that question. As a country, it's a mixed bag because there are people who are quick to respond to your question to say, after all, we have the Violence Against Person Prohibition Act that also mentioned the issue of widowhood, harmful practices and all that. To that level, yes, we do have some recognition in terms of the law, expanded to cover issues that relate to widows. But overall, I wouldn't say we are above the past mark yet. We need to do more than we have done in the areas of data collection. So even though how many widows do we have in Nigeria, we must recognize the dynamics of our society. That these days we are even having younger widows because of insurgency, because of violence, political violence and other associated violence across the land, because of road accidents, because of non-communicable diseases. You are having younger widows. And because you're having younger widows, the strategy, the approach to addressing with those issues has to change. We have to move beyond humanitarian welfare support to more, targeted economic empowerment for widows.
you've raised there about data collection, because till now we still don't know how many widows we have in Nigeria. The statistics just throws up a kind of number to say that 1 in 10, women are widows, and it's not really direct as to how many widows we have. But talk to us about what you think we can actually do. I know that our country is very peculiar. If you take a look at the north, the south, and the east and the west, it's pretty peculiar. The cases are peculiar. Talk to us about how you want the government to address these issues and ensure that every widow's right is being protected.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nigeria is one of the signatories to the Sustainable Development Goals, and the mantra of the SDGs is leaving no one behind. If we focus on that, it will help us to identify vulnerabilities across our society, to even look at the issue of women, that we do not have one homogeneous group. There's no one size fits all for women empowerment. Among women, we have widows, we have women with disabilities, we have women of different criteria. And also, working with the United Nations theme will also be helpful. Because this year, we are looking at the issue of property rights, for widows. If, as we move from year to year, the government works, with the theme, I think it would be helpful in terms of directing or targeting widows specifically when it comes to laws, when it comes to policies, when it comes to programs. And when I talk about policies, I'm also talking about the gender policy, to see how do we drill down to address issues that are peculiar to widows, because there are issues that are peculiar to widows. When a woman with a husband is different from a woman who has no husband. Incidentally, in the course of your report, I heard about a widow who had 7 children. If you have 7 children, you do not have education. If you have 7 children, you do not have a means of livelihood. If you have 7 children, and you do not have, a very strong and vibrant, social support network, of course, your vulnerability level will be very, high. You'll be more impoverished than maybe the ordinary woman, there, who may, for instance, will have some level of education, or could have, some gainful employment, or could even have, very vibrant, social support networks with them. And the issues of widow, beyond also looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, the theme, for each year, we need to look at vulnerability. In my organization, for instance, we develop a vulnerability index that helps you to identify, the most vulnerable widows. If you saw a widow without education, a widow who could not afford the education of her children, then something has to be done. Because without education, you cannot have the kind of employment that will help you. Most of these widows, they don't have education. They don't have means of livelihood, because maybe the husband, while he was alive, said, oh, don't work. My wife should not work. There are men like that. And I think we should be learning that, the society is evolving. For a woman to go to school, either she went to school or she did not, she must have some form of employment, because the risks are getting higher for every, household. The life expectancy ratio in Nigeria is, going lower, by the day. When you look at that, you look at the issue of infrastructure, housing. Government, they build houses every time. I wouldn't know how many of these houses that government have decided to allocate to women, particularly women who are heads of households like widows. Social housing. I tell you, there are widows who are sleeping maybe in completed buildings, even in this Lagos. There are widows who are sleeping in churches. There are the widows sleeping in mosques. There are widows, that do not have a roof over their head. There are widows that have been exploited by landlords because there is no man in the house. These are just different dynamics of gender-based violence. So these are areas that government have to look at. How can a woman, a widow, for instance, set up a robust business? No matter the grant that you provide for a woman, if for any reason she could not feed her household, if you give her ₦1 million, she first look at how she can feed her children, how her children can go to school. So government will be helpful, to provide those infrastructure, so that when NGOs like ours support women with grants for business, those grants will be used specifically for what they were meant for, not for welfare in a purpose.
Director Ajoke Aishat, Foundation for Luke Adamuko, thank you so much for bringing these issues back to the front burner.
Thank you so much for having me.